Have you ever wondered why more and more women are choosing to live alone? It's not because they're lonely, not because they lack options, and certainly not because they're disappointed in love. Perhaps you've seen it. A friend, a colleague, maybe even yourself, quietly stepping away from the noise. Behind that choice lies something deeper and more powerful, a journey of self-discovery, a quiet rebellion against the molds and stereotypes society has long placed on women. What if solitude isn't emptiness, but the first step toward finally coming home to yourself? Living alone is not a sign of being lost, but a profound journey back to oneself, homecoming to the soul that is often overlooked in the noise of daily life. It is a process that begins with courage. The courage to sit with your own thoughts in the quiet of the evening, to look honestly at your reflection without judgment, and to hear the gentle whisper of your true desires beneath the surface of old expectations. On this path, a woman learns to cherish silence, not as emptiness, but as a sanctuary where the relentless demands of others and the pressure to perform finally fade away. In that sacred stillness, she discovers her inner strength, the quiet resilience that has always been there, waiting to be acknowledged. She realizes she is free to choose her own direction, to say yes to what nourishes her and not to what drains her spirit. She begins to heal old wounds by honoring her pain, not hiding from it, journaling her thoughts, practicing mindfulness, and allowing herself to feel deeply and fully. No longer does she seek applause or validation from the world outside. The joy she finds is simple, yet profound. The joy of waking up to her own presence, of creating small rituals that bring her peace, of watching the sunrise with a heart that feels whole. She learns that happiness is not something to be chased or begged for, but something that quietly grows within, rooted in self-acceptance and gentle self-respect. By choosing to live alone, she discovers that true fulfillment is not about filling a void with noise or company, but about cultivating harmony within. This journey is not always easy. There are moments of doubt, nostalgia, and longing. Yet, in each of those moments, she grows stronger, more compassionate, and more in tune with her authentic self. It is a journey of growth, of reclaiming her story, and of nurturing a deep, abiding love for herself. A love that no outside circumstance can ever take away. There is a unique strength in a woman who dares to reject emotional dependency on others. She no longer seeks rescue, nor does she accept relationships merely to fill a void. Instead, she chooses to confront herself, her wounds, fears, and the deep shadow within her soul that she once avoided. Carl Jung once said, "Everything we deny in ourselves becomes part of our shadow." It is only by facing painful memories, disappointments, dependencies, and unspoken desires that a woman truly matures. She understands that true freedom does not come from having someone by her side, but from her ability to heal herself, to love herself, and to choose her own happiness. By refusing toxic relationships and no longer accepting emotional crumbs, she breaks the cycle of dependency. She no longer needs anyone to complete her, nor does she fear being alone. Instead, she learns to nourish herself with silence, self-respect, and her own fulfilling presence. This courage to face her shadow makes her stronger, more autonomous, and more peaceful than ever. It marks a turning point in her emotional maturity, living not for others' expectations, but authentically in alignment with her own true values. Women who choose to live alone are more than individuals on a journey of personal growth. They become living mirrors, reflecting the hidden, unacknowledged aspects of society's collective psyche. Drawing from Carl Jung's concept of the shadow, These women embody the parts of ourselves and our culture that are often denied or repressed. The longing for freedom, independence, and authentic strength. Jung taught that everything we refuse to accept in ourselves, our fears, desires, and vulnerabilities, does not disappear. Instead, it becomes our shadow, subtly shaping our behaviors, emotions, and the way we relate to others. In the context of modern society, women who live alone, content in their solitude, often trigger discomfort or judgment, not because of who they are, but because of what they represent. The possibility of a life unconstrained by traditional roles or the need for external validation. Many do not realize that these women stand as symbols of freedom and strengths that others, both men and women, may secretly yearn for but are hesitant to claim. Rather than seeking attention or validation, they quietly carve their own paths, choosing self-preservation over performative connection. Their refusal to conform or beg for love challenges the status quo, exposing the collective anxieties about dependency, loneliness, and the fear of stepping outside social norms. Their silence and resilience become a powerful mirror, reflecting back the dependency, fear, and outdated expectations that still bind so many. In doing so, they remind us all that emotional freedom and maturity are not only possible, but within reach for those brave enough to face their own shadows. Ultimately, these women invite society to reconsider its assumptions, to confront its collective fears, and to imagine new forms of fulfillment and self-realization beyond the boundaries of convention. There's a common misconception that a woman who lives alone without a boyfriend or a partner must be lost or incomplete. But in truth, she is operating on a different level in a realm where nothing is begged for and everything is consciously chosen. In this space, her presence is enough. She no longer seeks approval, nor does she wait for applause or validation from anyone. This shift is not just about solitude. It's about stepping into a life where affection is not pleaded for and self-worth is not measured by others' opinions. She chooses autonomy and peace, living in alignment with her own values. And yet, it is this very confidence and independence that often makes her the subject of scrutiny, criticism, and countless attempts by society to label or explain her. Why does she attract so much judgment? It's because her choices disrupt old norms. When a woman stops living according to traditional expectations, no longer needing to be rescued or defined by a relationship, she inadvertently challenges society's deeply held beliefs about a woman's role and worth. Her independence unsettles others. The fact that she doesn't need anyone to feel whole can make people uncomfortable, even threatened. That's why she's often labeled as cold, distant, or arrogant, when in reality, she's simply living authentically. But she doesn't need to justify herself. Her peace, her self-possession, and her quiet confidence are the clearest answers to all scrutiny. She knows that living to please others is the fastest way to lose herself, so she chooses authenticity, even if it means facing misunderstanding or isolation. And in doing so, she becomes an inspiration. Her steadfastness and calm in the face of judgment encouraged other women to dare to live authentically as well. At this level of emotional maturity, she doesn't need to be rescued or chosen. She chooses herself, writes her own story, and that's what makes her different, strong, whole, and sometimes hard for the majority to understand. But that difference lies in her greatest value. Because only when we are brave enough to live authentically can we truly be free, and truly ourselves.
Yet with every act of self-possession, a woman who lives alone inevitably steps into the spotlight of society's scrutiny. Her life, chosen, not begged for, becomes a silent provocation. She is not lost. She is simply no longer playing by the old rules. In a world that expects women to seek approval, her quiet confidence and contentment unsettle those who still measure worth by companionship or public affirmation. This difference is magnetic, but it is also misunderstood. Her refusal to conform, her decision to build a life on her own terms, often draws criticism or suspicion. Labels like cold, distant, or arrogant are cast her way, not because of who she is, but because her independence exposes the insecurities and outdated beliefs of others. But what truly sets her apart is not just her strength, but her grace in the face of judgment. She does not argue, nor does she shrink. She lets her presence, her peace, and her unwavering self-respect speak for themselves. She knows that living to please others is the surest way to lose herself, so she stands firm, even if it means walking alone through misunderstanding or silence. And in this, she becomes a quiet revolution. Her resilience, her ability to remain whole amid criticism, inspires other women to question the limits placed upon them. She shows that it is possible to be both gentle and unyielding, both open and self-contained. In choosing herself, she lights a path for others, reminding us all that authenticity, though sometimes lonely, is the truest form of freedom. Many people look at women who live alone and only see absence, but they fail to realize that behind it lies a powerful, overflowing presence that challenges all old emotional norms. These women do not seek just any love to fill a void. They only open their hearts to true love, a love that doesn't shrink them or force them to sacrifice their essence. Until they meet someone truly worthy, they remain strong, whole, and complete from within. They understand that happiness is not about settling for half measures, but about bravely choosing to wait for something truly worthy. Their presence doesn't need to be displayed, because their peace and self-mastery speak louder than any outside judgment or curiosity. You may not fully understand it right away. You might even think that choosing to live alone is pride or a mask for old wounds. But deep inside, everyone harbors a quiet question. What if that silent path is actually the one that leads to the most important kind of love, the love that begins with yourself? It is this silence, this courage to face oneself, that forms the foundation for the process of individuation Carl Jung emphasized. It's the journey to becoming the fullest version of yourself, no longer living for others, expectations, or judgments. When a woman is brave enough to walk this path, she no longer needs to prove anything or justify her choices. That peace and self-mastery are the most profound answers to all the world's doubts. The silence that surrounds a woman who lives alone is not emptiness. It is a safe sanctuary for her soul. It is a space where she can heal, listen to herself, and protect her true essence from the noise and pressures of the outside world. Many people fail to understand the value of this silence, often labeling her as cold, distant, or arrogant. But few realize that this fortress was not built to shut out the world, but to keep her from losing herself. It is within this quiet that she finds strength, peace, and the ability to fill her life with her own presence. This is where she grows, heals, and prepares herself for truly meaningful connections in the future. Carl Jung once said, "Everything we don't face in ourselves, we end up projecting onto others." That's why so many still confuse solitude with absence, not realizing that sometimes Silence itself is the most fertile ground for self-discovery and growth. Many of us grow up believing that happiness can only be found in external connections, with family, friends, or romantic partners. Yet there are women who choose to look inward, rather than filling their emptiness with someone else's presence. They dare to confront unnamed pains, old wounds, and buried memories. They keep journals, practice mindfulness, listen to each breath, and gradually realize loneliness is not an enemy, but a great teacher. In that stillness, they learn to forgive the past, heal deep wounds, and touch the deepest layers of their being. It's not an easy journey, but it's the only path to true freedom. Freedom from expectations, from denied shadows, and from the fear of needing someone else to feel whole. And when they are brave enough to face their own shadow, they no longer project their pain onto others, but can instead offer empathy, understanding, and genuine love. The power of emotional maturity does not come from perfection or peaceful days, but from a journey filled with chaos and pain. This woman has loved to the point of losing herself, given too much without receiving what she truly deserved. She has begged for emotional crumbs that she should never have accepted. But then, one day, she woke up. This awakening was not sudden, but a series of disappointments, wounds that gradually stopped hurting and began teaching her valuable lessons about herself and life. Emotional maturity is when she learns to love herself genuinely and deeply, no longer relying on or seeking acceptance from others. It is the realization that her worth does not depend on anyone else, and that she deserves to be loved fully. This journey is not easy, but it is the hardships and pains that forge inner strength, helping her become more resilient and autonomous than ever before. It is the power of a woman who has weathered storms and still stands strong, not just to survive, but to shine. What a truly mature woman longs for is not a hand that comes to save her or sweet promises meant to soothe. What she needs is a gaze deep enough to see her true essence, a soul broad enough to listen and understand all that she has been through. She doesn't need anyone to fix or mend her old wounds. She simply wants to be recognized, to be fully seen with both her shadows and her light. To truly see someone, you must dare to venture into their depths, a place few have the courage to go. It takes bravery to go beyond all masks and preconceptions, to touch the truth and vulnerability of a soul that has weathered storms. Only then does connection become meaningful, not as salvation, but as companionship, respect, and understanding. She isn't here to confront or prove anything to anyone. She simply lives authentically, a quiet yet powerful presence. That authenticity, that freedom, becomes a mirror for those still bound by prejudice, fear, and old patterns. When a woman dares to live truly, she doesn't need to speak up or argue. Her very existence is enough to make society reflect on itself, to question the invisible chains it has long accepted. She is a powerful reminder that freedom and happiness do not come from conformity, but from the courage to live true to one's essence. Her presence, though silent, is both an inspiration and the greatest challenge to those who have yet to step out of their own comfort zones. She isn't searching for perfect love, nor does she expect sweet promises or unattainable ideals. What she longs for is someone mature enough to love without causing harm, deep enough to walk beside her without overshadowing her. For her, love is no longer about possession or fleeting passions, but the meeting of two souls who have learned to heal themselves, who can stand strong and are ready to grow together. She chooses someone who has faced themselves, who has walked through their own darkness, so that when they are together, neither has to hide their scars or sacrifice their true selves just to please the other. This is the love of maturity, where each person is free to be themselves, and the relationship becomes a place of nourishment, not a cage or a battlefield of egos. She is a living symbol of emotional freedom, a testament to Jung's process of individuation. She neither chases after anyone nor leads the way, but simply lives authentically and spreads inspiration to the community. On that path, she moves steadily without haste or competition, creating a unique, unreplicable mark. Each small fire she lights not only warms herself, but also spreads to the souls around her who are gradually awakening. That freedom is not about indulgence or recklessness, but a conscious choice, a harmony between inner strength and authenticity. She is living proof that anyone can rebuild their life without rush, without fear, and without needing to prove anything to the world. This journey of individuation is a reminder that true freedom comes from within, from accepting and loving oneself fully. And when she lives true to herself, she is not only free, but also becomes a beacon for others on their path to self-discovery. If something inside you was stirred by this story, perhaps it's because, deep down, you too are ready for a new kind of love, a love that begins with reconciliation with yourself. It is a love nourished by silence, by full presence, and by unhidden truth. Let this story awaken within you the longing to love yourself, the courage to face your shadow, the freedom to choose, and the will to live fully. For this is the most beautiful and worthy journey any woman can embark upon. Trust that you are not alone on this path. For every step you take toward yourself, you are also lighting a spark of inspiration for other souls seeking awakening and freedom.